enigmatic historical discoveries are found by complete accident, and they offer a unique insight into the lives and creative minds of our ancient ancestors. Here we'll look at 5 unique and often still unexplained things that defy what we think about our history, and reinforce just how capable ancient civilizations were without the help of modern-day technology. Now, before we get into these 5 incredible ancient artifacts, consider becoming a patron of ours for just $2 per month. We no longer upload documentaries to YouTube, and for just $2 per month, you'll get access to 4 full-feature documentaries that we have on Patreon, such as 2 Murderous Minds, one on Richard Ramirez and the other on Joseph Mengele, a documentary on the mysterious life and work of Stanley Kubrick, and the odd messages he put in his films, and our newest documentary called World War AI: Rise of the Machines, which is a documentary about the possibility of AI taking over the world. Let us therefore examine if AI really does pose a threat to us, and explore how our technology could one day rise against us. This is World War AI. We're currently working on other documentaries at the moment, Another Murderous Minds on Heinrich Himmler. Without the Patreon support, we wouldn't be able to keep these documentaries up, so a big thank you to all of those who have become Patreons. Now, let's get into the video. The San Pedro Mummy. In July 1934, Cecil Main and Frank Carr were digging for gold in the San Pedro Mountains when they discovered something quite extraordinary. After blasting the rock face, they uncovered a small man-made cavern measuring no more than 15 feet long and 4 feet wide. Inside it, sitting cross-legged, was a tiny mummified human, measuring around 6.5 inches in its sitting position. He was perfectly preserved with brown, wrinkled flesh, bulging eyes, and a flattened skull. Even his fingernails were visible. Main and Carr immediately smelt money, and they removed the tiny figure and took him to the town of Casper, where they sold him as a sideshow exhibit. Over the next couple of years, he passed through several owners who made money from him, and became known as Pedro. Eventually Pedro ended up in the hands of car dealer Ivan Goodman, who showed the mummy off in a glass case as part of his advertising display. He claimed Pedro was thousands of years old and displayed X-ray photos next to him to substantiate this. Of course, the claim was nonsense, but the X-rays were genuine, as Pedro had been examined by scientists over the years, and all of them agreed that the mummy was a genuine human specimen. However, none of them could determine exactly what he was. One theory is that he was in fact a baby suffering from a rare genetic condition known as anencephaly, an embryonic development fault that means a major portion of the brain, skull and scalp is missing. However, there is a problem with this suggestion, because although Pedro was the right size to be a baby, he also exhibited features associated with a fully grown man. For instance, he had a full set of teeth, and X-rays revealed he had the remains of solid food in his stomach. It's also thought that he did not die of natural causes, as he had a broken collarbone, damaged spine, and a smash in his skull. Other theories claim Pedro was in fact an adult dwarf. The popular belief from local Native Americans is that Pedro was a Niminagara, a mythical race of little people who lived in the Wind River. They were said to be between 2 and 3 feet in height and possessed magical powers. But they were also extremely vicious, and it was unwise to upset one, as they could fire poisonous darts at anyone who displeased them. Sadly, modern scientists never got a chance to study Pedro, as in the 1950s, Goodman lost him, probably to a New York conman, and the mummy has never been recovered. The incredible Shigir Idol. The Shigir Idol is the oldest known wooden sculpture in the world and dates back 11,500 years. It was discovered on January 24, 1894 in the peat bog of Shigir, on the eastern slope of the Middle Urals in Russia. Excavation of the area had begun 40 years earlier after the discovery of a variety of prehistoric objects. The sculpture was found 13 feet down in the bog and was extracted in 10 parts. When reassembled, it stood at 2.8 meters in height, although some suggested its original height could have been around 5.3 meters. Initially it was dated at around 9,500 years old, but this was revised in the 1990s to 11,500, meaning it was made shortly after the end of the last ice age during the Mesolithic period. The sculpture is carved from larch, and it's believed stone tools, as well as tools made from the lower jawbone of a beaver, were used to carve its intricate markings. At the top of the sculpture is a head with a face, eyes, nose, and mouth. The body is flat and is decorated with geometrical motifs and human faces and hands. The lines in the middle are believed to represent ribs. The unusual decoration has been likened to a totem pole. Theories about what the carvings represent range from illustrations of our creation to a navigational aid or even mythological forest spirits. Some have suggested that the idol is a warning not to enter a dangerous area. Because the statue was buried in the bog for so long, it's incredibly well preserved, as the acid environment killed off microorganisms and also had a tanning effect. Scientists suspect that many statues like this one existed, but they did not benefit from the preservation effect of the bog. To date, Shigir Idol's purpose and meaning remains a mystery, but it could also very well hold a vital clue to life nearly 12,000 years ago. The precious idol is currently kept in a climate-controlled case at the Sverdlovsk Regional History Museum in Russia. The Terracotta Warriors of China. Most of us are aware of the ancient Egyptians' belief in the afterlife and the complex after-death rituals they followed to ensure the deceased had all they needed to complete their journey. But they weren't the only ones who followed fascinating burial rituals. China also adopted age-old burial rituals themselves, and the extent they went to protect one of their emperors was accidentally unearthed in 1974 and became one of the most significant archaeological finds of the 20th century. It all started back in 246 BCE when China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, took the throne at the age of just 13. As ruler of the First Imperial Empire, he was responsible for regulating scripts and coins, and was also instrumental in the construction of the Great Wall and the unification of China. To recognize his own achievements and memorialize his life, he ordered the construction of a necropolis in Xi'an, a region rich in gold. His vision was an elaborate mausoleum filled with the most treasured possessions. He also instructed that thousands of specially made terracotta soldiers were created to protect him in the afterlife. For centuries, Qin Shi Huang's massive underground mausoleum remained undetected. However, in 1974, workers in northwestern China stumbled upon a large sculpture of a terracotta warrior while digging a well. The discovery prompted archaeologists to explore the area, resulting in the discovery of thousands of similar soldiers in 4 separate pits. Each life-sized soldier was unique with an impressive amount of detail, and they varied in height according to their military rank. Upon discovery, all the figures were the same shade of grey, but originally they would have been realistically painted. In addition to the 8,000 soldiers, 130 ceramic chariots and 670 horses were also found, along with clay figures of dancers, acrobats and musicians. Today, Qin Shi Huang's necropolis is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, although the main part of the tomb has not been excavated. Most of the thousands of terracotta soldiers still remain on the site, guarding over their ruler, although 10 have been removed and have appeared in exhibitions, allowing visitors to see up close the intricate work that went into each soldier and give them an insight into not only early artistic practices, but also ancient Chinese burial rituals. Bosnian Sphere. In March 2016, a massive stone ball was discovered in the forest of Visko Valley in Bosnia. It measured around 10 feet across and was brown and red in colour. The find caused a massive debate in academic circles as to how such a vast, perfectly spherical stone, weighing over 30 tons, was created. Archaeologist Sam Samira Osmanakic, who discovered the stone, believes a long-lost ancient civilization created the huge ball thousands of years ago, and that other similar spherical stones found around the world back this up. He claimed their technology was different to ours, and they knew the power of geometrical shapes, demonstrated with the pyramids and other perfectly formed ancient constructions. He also claims that certain hills in the Bosnian Visoko Valley, Herzegovina, harbour ancient underground tunnels and pyramids. However, it's worth pointing out there is no geological proof of this. But others disagree and believe the logical explanation for the huge sphere is an example of something called concretion, a compact, often spherical rock mass that forms from the precipitation of natural mineral cement in the spaces between particles. Typically, these structures are rich in iron and take on a reddish-brown appearance. Examples of such a phenomena have been found all around the world, such as the Moiraki boulders of New Zealand and the concretions of the Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota. And, rather than them being thousands of years old, these formations are actually millions of years old. However, there are some that agree with Sam and point out the stone spheres of the Dicos people found in Costa Rica. These spheres are made of gabbro, which is a volcanic rock that would not naturally form in such a perfectly sphere shape, and so have been man-made and strategically placed in rows at specific settlements. Bearing in mind they weigh up to 15 tons. So to date, the jury is still out on whether these spherical objects were handmade by a lost civilization or Mother Nature's handiwork. What do you think? Grauballe Man. The body of the Grauballe Man was discovered on 26th of April 1952 by a team of peat diggers working near the village of Grauballe in Denmark. After extensive tests, it was estimated the body dated back to the late 3rd century BC, during the early Germanic Iron Age, and he had died after having his throat cut. It is believed his death was an example of human sacrifice, possibly an important rite in Iron Age Germanic paganism. The find had been described as one of the most spectacular discoveries from Denmark's prehistory, because it's one of the most exceptionally preserved bog bodies in the world. It was so well preserved, even the man's fingerprints have been retrieved. Studies of his remains revealed valuable information about the man's life and his gruesome death. His hands were smooth, indicating that he was not employed in hard labour, such as farming. His teeth and jaws indicated that he had suffered from periods of starvation and poor health during his early childhood, and his skeleton showed signs of significant calcium deficiency and the early onset of spinal degeneration. However, due to the shrinkage of the corpse suffered in the bog, the man's actual height could not be determined. Although it's known in life he had dark hair, not the reddish colour it now appears. The corpse was not found with any artifacts or clothing, suggesting he was naked at the time of his death. His throat was cut ear to ear, severing his trachea and esophagus. This was too deep to be a self-inflicted wound. Adding weight to the sacrifice theory, he was around 30 years old when he died. It was decided initially that the corpse should undergo immediate preservation and then be exhibited to the public, but this was a mistake as mould started to appear on certain areas of his body as a result of having been kept permanently moist. After a rethink, it was decided the body should go through a tanning process to in effect turn it into leather before being stuffed with oak bark. This was the first time a whole bog body had been preserved, a bit of an unceremonious way to treat a human body, but the Grauballe Man has provided valuable information into life over 2,000 years ago, and he lives on at the Moosgaard Museum near Aarhus, where he is still displayed today. So that's 5 incredible ancient historical artifacts discovered by accident that have not only given us a great insight to our previous lives, but also added more mystery to it. We hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.